Welcome to the Doug and Mike Show. I'm Doug.
Hey, and I'm Mike. We're glad you're here.
And we have real conversations with real people. Mike, why don't you introduce our special guest today?
All right, Doug, you having a good day today, my friend?
Man, it's a great day. We have a hurricane inbound to Florida.
Uh-oh, look out. Yep, just when the season starts to wind down, it really starts to wind up. So, well, listen, we've got a great story today. We're glad you're tuning in to us. We have another awesome firefighter story. We have a story of giving and sacrifice. You know, those are the ones I love the most. You know, like I think about all my Disney movies, you know, like The Lion King and Cars, you know, or Lightning McQueen in the very end, you know, kind of helps out. Are you following me, Doug?
Yeah, you're going down the rabbit hole, Mike.
All right. Well, listen, I'm going to bring it back in. We have a firefighter from Ajax, Ontario, Canada, with us today. She has she's done an incredible act of kindness and giving. She actually did not do it on her.
I thought you said she was a fitness model. Where are you going with this?
Yeah, let's go and bring her in before we get this too confused. So Nadine Young, thank you for being with us on today's show.
Hi, thank you very much for having me.
So Nadine, you are a firefighter in Canada, eh?
That's
right?
Correct. Yes.
Almost 15.
Oh man.
Almost 15. Yeah, I got family from Canada. This is coming from the heart here. So 15 years on the job up there. It looks like you're very involved in a department up there, just from checking up and reading up on what's going on in that part of the world. And but today isn't so much about firefighting. It's about a pretty incredible act of giving that you were involved in recently. In fact, I looked; it was just over 100 days ago that this all took place. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this journey of giving that you're on?
Well, it started, I found out that one of my colleagues, his son needed a liver transplant. We found this out in January. I actually found out when I was on the back of the truck with my crew, because we were all kind of talking about it. We were all worried about Mark, which is my coworker, and we're all worried about his son because we are one big family. We're a smaller department with just about 100 firefighters, so we all know each other, and we all know each other very well. So when it's dealing with one of our children, we are very in tune with the health and the wellness of everybody's child, and obviously prayers were going out.
And it was a very rare form of cancer also, right?
Yes, about 1 in 5 million children or adolescents get affected with this type of cancer. And Jarrett was 18 at the time when they found out that he was diagnosed with this rare form of cancer. He came home from university for Christmas, and he wasn't feeling the greatest, and he was a little pale, kind of yellowish, and he was very tired, exhausted, which wasn't like him at all. So we went to the doctors, and lo and behold, they found out that he had this rare form of liver cancer.
Wow. I'm sure that was pretty hard on Mark and the department there. And, you know, finding out it's such a rare form, doesn't make matters any easier as well, because you start looking online and doing all the research on your own. And, you start to look at what the failure looks like rather than the success, you know?
Correct.
Normally when they check for this type of cancer, family members aren't they normally the traditional donors?
Usually yes, if they are the appropriate blood type. But just because the parents, created Jarrett doesn't mean that they were the appropriate blood type to donate.
So this is when you guys kind of start going out. What do you do next? I mean, what's the first thing that your department starts to do here in terms of, providing support?
Well, they provided support with Mark for some time off to go back and forth for all these doctor's appointments and tests for his son. On my end, or on the end of the fellow firefighters, Mark put out a cry for help type letter it was on a letterhead from Ajax Fire, and he was basically kind of told the story a little bit, and he was begging someone to come up, step up to be their hero, to be Jarrett's hero. And reading this letter that went viral, I read it, like I said, it was on the back of the fire truck, and I got goosebumps. I'm like, wow. And I'm like, what if I'm I didn't know his blood type. I knew mine because I donate blood. I've donated over 50 times. I started ever since I was 17. And so I'm like, it's in me to give. So I'm like, there's more stuff to give.
Right.
So, yeah. So they, when I found out that Jarrett's blood type, I'm not sure what it is, but I know I'm O positive, so I can donate almost like a universal donor.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as I found out, I was so stressed to get my paperwork in, my medical 17-page history form into the University Health Network possible donator for Jarrett. And I let Mark know right away, and I said, I've put my name in. Like I had to find out all my I can't even say the word. All my thank you. All when I was little, I researched all those. I contacted all my doctors. I've had 2 family doctors. I got all my medical history, everything, and to get all this form filled out and sent in. And then I'm like, okay, well, now what? Are they going to contact me? So they contacted me like 4 or 5 days later, because it was a holiday, to let me know that they had received my form and that they will be in touch if I'm one of the possible candidates for him.
And they had gone out. They had. I'm going to jump in there real quick, because they had gone out, and at this point, y'all had firefighters and police officers, paramedics all across Canada, right? That you were looking at becoming a possible match.
Correct. There was, I think, between 70 and 100 people that filled out this form. And I believe in Ajax, I think there might have been 4 or 5 of us. And even some of the firefighters' kids, 18-year-old kids, were filling these out. Yeah. These forms out, not knowing the full grasp of what's involved. Like I didn't yet, but I was willing to, put my name in there, because I know my entire life I've lived the healthiest that I've ever heard of. Mm-hmm. Like no drugs, no nothing, no smoking. And I work out daily. Like even before I gave birth to my daughter, my water broke the same day that I did a spin class, trained legs, and ran home. So wow. Like I am gung ho right to the end. So yeah.
Oh my God, that's classic. It's like, wait a second, I got to get 5 more minutes in, honey. So
yeah, I got to get through this last burn real fast. Hold on, we can do this. We have a Nadine here in Tallahassee. Doug, you probably have one in Fort Lauderdale too.
We do. What was the test like to find out that you were a match?
Well, first off, is they have to go through all the possible donors. And they go through all the paperwork, and they pick Jarrett's possible suitor for the donation. When they called me I was the very first person that they called. And again, sometime I was working. We were just on our way to do some familiarization of an apartment building. And I saw my cell phone light up, and it was an unrecognized phone number, but I answered it anyway quickly. And it was one of the assistants in the liver donor floor, I guess you could say. And she asked if I was still interested in possibly donating. And my heart just sunk right down to the floor. And I was like speechless a little bit. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Wow.
Yeah. And so for the rest of the day, I was kind of out of sorts in my brain. I'm like, oh my God, they called me. They called me out of everybody. I'm like, holy crap. So yeah. My guys were very supportive on my truck. Like they all talked to me about it. Like there was a lot of positive and a lot of negative. But when I filled out the paperwork, first of all, I went home, I did research. I looked what I had to do personally for myself to be his best possible donor and the best possible outcome. I researched the surgery, the incision, what I was to eat, all that kind of stuff. even post surgery. So I was prepared in case this is going for it. And you asked the question about the testing. The testing started at the beginning of April. So they called me, and it was test after test. First, it was blood work. They took 15 vials of blood. I'm like, are you leaving me any?
Yeah, you gotta have.
They just kept
Up
taking
in
it
the
and taking
tank.
it and taking it. And I'm like, what? So I took a picture of it, and through a few of my firefighters back home, they were, I sent them the picture. I'm like, this is the start of it. They're like, holy crap. So right after the blood work, it was an ECG. Then it was a CT scan. And that was one day. Then the next day, I went back a couple days later, and it was a meeting with a surgeon, a meeting with the one of the assistants, and it was an MRI later on in that day, which was actually at 9:30 at night. But the CT scan, I don't know if you gentlemen have ever had one before, but they
No, never had a CT.
No, they inject a dye, and the gentleman that was administering the CT scan, he told me about it first. He goes, you're going to get this feeling like a really heavy lead taste in your mouth, and it's going to go down to your chest. You're going to feel like this heavyish weight, and that's just from the IV. And it's going to go down to your groin. It's going to feel like you peed yourself. It's going to be a burning kind of hot feeling. It's going to go all the way down to your toes. So this CT scan was 35 minutes, and then they inject the dye roughly within the last 10 minutes. So when they injected that dye, I'm like, wow, sirs, like you were bang on when you expressed on the result that I'm going to feel. Then the MRI.
That's really cool.
It's wild what they can do, but over and all, I had more blood work done. I've had 2 separate meetings with surgeons, and they go over the entire procedure. One was like they took the time. Any question you had, there was no dumb question. And I was asking about the incision, how big it's going to be, what's my recovery time. And honestly, like I was still kind of on the fence. I was like, I started with being 40% sure that I'm going to do this, 60% chance, 80% chance, and then bang, I was all in. Like I was ready.
That was my question. It's like along the way, you're going through the testing, things are becoming more of a reality to you. You know now this is happening, or maybe not necessarily has to happen, but every step you're taking, you are becoming more committed to it. I mean, at any point in that, I mean, were you really having a second thought?
I'd say at the very beginning, yes, because they did tell me that I wouldn't be able to. This is the reason why. So it may sound a bit selfish on my part, but I have a 2-year-old daughter and who's attached to my hip. So they told me that.
Is she with you right now?
No, I have someone, her dad's taking care of her right now because we needed to be quiet.
that was fireman humor. He's,
Yeah. So daddy daycare.
It probably doesn't translate up in Canada.
I'm usually a funny guy, Nadine, I promise. Just not like you said, across the border, there's just some kind of weird thing happening.
That's okay. So the only hesitation that I had is when I spoke with the surgeon the first time. He said, you will not be permitted, or you're not allowed to lift anything over 10 pounds for about 8 weeks. So then I'm thinking, I can't even pick up my daughter. I can't put her to bed. I can't, cuddle her or anything like that. So that was my number one thing.
Yeah,
hesitation.
not 8 days, but 8 weeks.
8 weeks.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Okay. Yeah. So, and then I had to make sure that obviously my fiance or her dad was home, that if he wasn't there, that I'd have somebody at the house that could lift her up. We could go for walks, but I couldn't, play with her on the playground, anything like that. So that was my only hesitation. But with the donor program, they keep everything 100% confidential. And when I spoke with one of the assistants, they mentioned, I asked them, I'm like, what's the I guess the breakdown time if someone does back out? Like how common is that? because the lady said, I just had 4 people back out today for possible donors for other people. Like, it's
Wow.
very common, right? Because you got to reach down deep and you got to figure out, how am I going to do this? Do I have it in me to do this? So also doing the research, they also said that between 20 and 30% of possible donors that go through the testing actually go through with the procedure, the surgery. So I'm like, I'm going to beat those odds and I'm going to jack them up. So
Yeah, it's like, don't challenge me. Don't
challenge me.
Don't challenge Nadine. This is what she feeds off of this.
Yeah. So they do kind of give you a little bit of downtime. They did call me about 2 to 3 weeks with the time of a possible date for the surgery. And they told me it was either going to be the 13th of May or it was going to be the 15th of May. And I'm like, oh, fantastic. Because my birthday is on the 14th and Mother's Day is on the 12th. So
wow.
Yeah, what a great day. Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah.
So, but then I thought to myself, what better Mother's Day gift could I give another mother but a chance to have her son?
Yeah.
Or, for the rest of his life and her life. So me being a mother now, like, that's just, I just got goosebumps.
I got them too.
No, that's powerful. It's so powerful.
Yeah. And
educate me a second. Is the liver, will it grow back?
Yes, it regenerates for sure.
It does. Okay.
They say it takes up to 3 months for it to regenerate. And, but the part that what I found out afterwards through my scans and after I donated is that my liver was 18% larger than the average person my size and height and weight. So I'm like, well, they either left me more or they gave him more. So, but they actually gave Jarrett, Mark's son, my recipient, my entire right lobe of my liver. There's a right lobe and a left lobe.
It sounds like a lot.
Oh, okay.
It's huge. Normally it's a percentage of the right lobe, like it's 70% of the right lobe of the liver is what you would donate. But they actually took my entire right lobe.
Is this like a golf ball size, tennis ball size? What is it?
I'd say, like, if you open up your hand, it's like that size.
Oh,
maybe from fingertip to wrist.
Wow.
Wow.
But that's what I'm thinking. But so they gave him my entire right lobe, which mine would grow back, but not my right lobe would grow back. It's my left lobe that would overcompensate, kick in, and grow back. So basically, it's reversed. It's kind of switched. So instead of your liver kind of hanging out the most dominant side on your left side of your body, on the right side of your body, the meaty part would be on the right side. Now my meaty part is on the left side, and it kind of trails down and it goes towards my back.
Now, I noticed that in looking at the story, it talks about that you can only do this type of donation one time.
Yes. Because your liver does regenerate, because we can take stuff daily, whether it's a medication, even a vitamin, or someone can have a few drinks and they have a really rough weekend. Your liver does grow back and regenerate, but you can only donate once. So they can't take a big chunk of my left side now to donate to somebody else. It's just, I'm not sure the medical terminology for it, but they did tell me you could only donate a portion of your liver one time in your life.
Now, did the thought ever cross your mind? I mean, how did you deal with the fact that, okay, what if one day my daughter, were to come down with liver disease and I were a match, and now I'm not able to donate? Well, how did you deal with that?
You are probably the 20th person to ask me that question, even prior. I did think about it, and I thought about a lot of stuff, but I do realize that going through what we are going through now with Jarrett, that I am taking all my courage and strength that I have, and knowing that I can only donate once, and I'm giving my life and my love to somebody else that I don't even know. And the way that the world is now, that there's a lot of good people. There's a lot of, selfless people out there that I prayed, and I know, because karma does come around. And I do believe in that if she did need it, or someone in my family needs it, then someone else will step up in this province, in this world, because I just do believe in karma that way. Someone would have stepped
How,
up.
Yeah.
I completely agree. It's just good stuff. Good begets good. It's positive, and you have to maintain a positive attitude, which is, you obviously you have bucket loads of, which is amazing.
Man, you have to, especially there's a lot of horrible people. I know you guys see it. I see it all the time, and I just shake my head just knowing what I went through and what my family went through. Because just as, I'm in a hospital bed. I was in the hospital for 8 days, but they're going through this stress that they went through. Just one, like waiting for me to come out of surgery. My surgery took an extra 2.5, 3 hours than it was scheduled to take. My surgery was actually longer than Jared's. So, and my family, like for Todd and Adeline, my daughter, my girlfriend came down. They're waiting and waiting and waiting. For me, it was like 30 seconds. For them, it was over 8 hours. So the stress of knowing, like, well, why is it taking longer? Why isn't she out? And then when I came to, there still could be complications. There still could be a lot of things that could happen. And just, the fact of Todd now having to Adeline for like the full 8 days all by himself, he did great. He did really, really well. And then, it's a lot of stress on yourself and on your family for sure. So you have to prepare yourself and your family for that.
Nadine, you're into fitness. You just told us a little bit about the fact that you've never had a Skittle or a piece of bacon in your whole life. I feel really bad about that now because I had some bacon this morning. But what does this mean for you now? I mean, your fitness is important to you. Your image is important to you. Feeling, being healthy, living healthy. It seems like a conflict, So how have you dealt with that? How has it impacted your body's, your health and fitness moving forward?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the first things I was worried about was the incision and the scar. And then I'm thinking, you know what? This scar is going to be like, it has a purpose. And who cares? Like, right. I have a bunch of, I've been in the cover of a few magazines, been in 4 or 5 magazines. I've won pro titles. I've got a lot of different stuff under like the fitness world. And then I had my daughter, and then I never stopped working out. It's part of who I am. It's my life. And that was another thing, is they said, you can't lift anything over 10 pounds for 8 weeks. And I'm like, right. So honestly, like, a scar is a scar. It's going to fade. And that means it's like a badge of honor, honestly, now.
Absolutely.
I did my time, for like the body looking so pretty and all that kind of stuff, like, having like the flawless image, but there's Photoshop.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, and the reality is, it's a testimony. Like, it's a conversation. Like, people like, what's that? And now you can tell that story, which can inspire other people to, donate.
Yeah, but I rested for a little bit. I did notice after the surgery, if I walked around the house too much, if I went up and down the stairs, or if I took the dogs for a walk, then it was almost like I hit a wall, like I hit a brick wall. I went very ashen, very pale. I started talking like I was drunk. And then I'm like, oh, I think I need to lie down now, so that I would have to lie down and rest, put my feet up. But my life doesn't stop. Like, a lot of people would take advantage of this, not advantage of it. They would relax, they would do the thing, but that's not in my vocabulary. Mine's like, what's the relax muscle? Yeah, what's the relax muscle and how do you work it? Because I'm going to work the shit out of that relax muscle.
Once I find it, I'm going to get it. Yep. Once I find it, I'm going to get it.
Yeah. So at 2.5 weeks post-surgery, I barely walked into the gym, but I walked into the gym. I did my stairs. Normally I would do it at a speed of 12 with the heavy band around my legs. This time I did it at a speed of 3.5. Again, with the band around my legs. I held on for dear life, but I still did 23 minutes. Then I went and slowly walked into like the stretching room, and I just grabbed 5-pound plates, and I did like 50 reps of everything. But I was barely moving, but I was still in there, and I was still getting some resistance. I did lose 18 pounds after the surgery. which is a lot for my frame.
I was going to say, I don't know where that came from. I guess a lot of muscle.
It was all muscle. Like I couldn't even flex afterwards. Like I couldn't even like do a bicep flex after the surgery. I'm like, where did my muscles go? Like, where did my legs go? But it all comes back. It came back within like a month and a bit. And that's just basically the big shock on your body, right? So, but yeah, I've never missed a day at the gym since, after I started going back at 2.5 weeks. But I listened to the doctors somewhat. I did have to take, they said, listen, they said nothing heavier than 10 pounds. So I had a 5-pound plate on one side and a 5-pound plate on the other arm or whatever. I was doing shoulders and curls and triceps. And then if I was
definitely a firefighter.
And then if I was only doing one side, then I would jack it up to a 10-pound plate, because you're only lifting 10 pounds. But I made sure, like, yeah,
and then you had an air pack on your back, and then
yeah, and that didn't include the bar, because technically the bar really doesn't have a weight written on it, so that 45 pounds doesn't really count.
Yeah. See, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? But my strength, I modified a lot of movements, but it's when I had my 4-week checkup with the surgeon, they looked at me and I told him, I said, I am going to the gym. He looked at me like his mouth just dropped. He goes, what did you just say? And I'm like, but you said I could lift 5 pounds, or 10. So that's what I was doing. But meanwhile, I was already up to like 15 and 20 by then.
Of course you were.
You have to listen to your body, right? Like, as long as they were worried about internal bleeding and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so was I. So I didn't do anything core, nothing with my abdominals. And if I felt any bit uncomfortable in my stomach during any movement, I wouldn't do it. So it's you got to keep your body moving, right? So after the surgery, I had to take injections in my legs. I had to self-administer injections in my legs daily, and I hate needles. But here I am psyching myself up. My legs were so bruised. I even tried to, had to get my fiance, I'm like, okay, let's try like in the meaty part of your bum. But then he hit a nerve, and I'm like, take it out. It hurts. Like the needles, I was like, they're so tiny, but it was just, and that was to prevent blood clots. So I had to take those for 5 weeks after, along with like a folic acid pill and an iron pill, and that was it. But after my 4-week appointment, the checkup, I begged the doctor, I'm like, can I please stop taking these needles? And he's like, how come? And I'm like, look at my legs. They're bruised to crap. I really, really hate them. They hurt. Like the stuff stings that you put into your muscle or into your leg. Anyways, and because of how active I was, which was a benefit for me, he said, yes, you can stop them. I'm like, thank you. So I still had 17 needles to take at home, and I just took them. I marched them right to Shoppers Drug Mart, which is like your Walgreens. And I'm like, take them and get rid of them. I'm done with them.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah, and that's all because of how active I was. Thankfully.
Yeah.
Nadine, I want to read real quick. Nadine, I want to read you a quote that from Jarrett. He said in one of the news stories, how do you ever thank somebody that is doing what she is doing? I mean, it's an endless emotional misunderstanding. What do I do to say thank you? I mean, thank you just isn't enough.
That was Mark. That was his dad.
That was his dad. Okay. How are they processing all this? I mean, I know you certainly don't do these types of things for any type of gratitude other than just the fact you're paying it forward, and you want people to pay it forward. But I mean, I would imagine there's an incredible bond between the two families now that's just unmatched.
There sure is. The one thank you and a hug and a fist pump is good enough for me.
That's it, right?
Yeah, like a lot of people still hear the story and they hear like, are you the one? That I'm like, yeah. And even people, they're like, wow, you've really bounced back. And I still hear it up. I still can't. I can't. I can talk about it, but sometimes I get too emotional just for the fact that we did it and it was successful. But as for him saying, how do you thank someone? Just a hug. Be honest and be truthful and be happy in your life, and that's thankful enough. like thrive, push yourself to your limits, right? And you know, pay it forward, like you said, do it, help someone else out. You don't have to donate an organ, but you know, like little acts of, you know, selfless acts, courage, strength, smile at somebody, you know, just compliment them. And that's good enough for me. But the like I have so many letters from his family that they wrote. Like Jarrett wrote me a few letters, his mom, Mark, wrote me a few letters, his sister. And I have a basket full of all these amazing words. I haven't gone through it yet. I briefly looked at it at that time, at that moment, but I still don't have, I'm not ready to go through it yet.
Wow.
Right.
I'm
well,
sitting
I think one thing,
right now.
one thing that, you know, talking with you earlier that you brought up was the fact, and I didn't even really realize this, is that Jarrett is, for the rest of his life, he has to maintain medications, and the cost and everything like that is not covered by insurance.
Correct. Yeah. Right now, though, he's still covered under his father's insurance. And unless he gets a job that has his own benefits and insurance, the cost of the medication is ridiculous. It ranges anywhere from, I think, $3,000 to $5,000 a month, because he's going to be on medication for life. So, yeah, the financial toll that this whole process, it's put on my family, and definitely the singer's family, from the start of December, when they started driving down to Toronto, which is 70 to 80 kilometers from their home, paying for parking and all that kind of stuff, sometimes staying in a hotel. It does add up. So we did create, my fiance created it for us. And he put, he created a GoFundMe link. And the link was to take care of Jarrett's family and my family, for, like, I just wanted my finances covered for the money that came out of my pocket going back down for testing, having my fiance and daughter close to me during that you when I was in the hospital. So I got what's called an Airbnb. So that's, you know what it is. So, like, that was $1,500 alone. And then there's, of course, the parking and all that kind of stuff. But so the GoFundMe link that we created was to not have any financial hardships that would come out of my pocket or their pocket. So that was covered, and the rest of it goes towards Jarrett. So we've had an abundance amount of wonderful people that, and even still, like, people will see me, even when I was struggling, just grocery shopping, they you know, saw me in the parking lot. They handed me $100. They're like, this is for your donation for what you did. I'm like, wow. So I put that right into the account, because I'm done my hard stuff. That's all now going towards Jarrett, because he needs as much as possible, you know, for the rest of his life. So we still do a little bit of fundraising stuff. Like, you know, we have T-shirts that people can purchase, and that are made, that some are pretty funny, but it's all to benefit Jarrett and for the rest of his life, because, like I said, the medication he's going to be on is ridiculously expensive.
I'm sure Mike will include some of the links so that our listeners can donate.
That would be amazing. I've had my family and the Singer family, we've had dinner together a month back, and you know, Jared and I, we still tell our stories towards each other. Like, if I'm feeling a certain pain or discomfort, I'm asking him the same thing. Like, neither one of us could laugh. We were trying to not laugh, because it was like a good time with family together. And we're like, ow, stop, it hurts. Don't make us laugh. Because of the incision, right? The whole abdominal incision. But you know what? That little bit of pain was worth that good laughter. But now with apparently with donors and recipients, sometimes the recipient takes on some of the donors' likes and dislikes, or some form of a characteristic. And I don't know if you've ever heard that, but, you know, if I really love coffee, and Jarrett might like coffee now, but I really, really, really like salads and vegetables and apples.
Great.
And so now I'm like, I asked Jarrett at dinner, I'm like, is there anything that is different that you don't normally like to eat or that you're eating now and you don't even think about it? And he goes, Nadine, I can't stop eating salads and apples. and everyone's like, can I have a piece of your organs? I'm like, no. But his mom was in the kitchen yelling, thank you. I'm like, you're welcome.
Nadine Young, it's been a pleasure to talk to you and meet you. And you're inspiring so many people to give and pay it forward. And we're going to put these links up in our show notes here with the GoFundMe accounts and some links to some of that gear and T-shirts and things like that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Well, folks, make sure you follow us on Instagram and YouTube at The Doug and Mike Show. We're also on smart speaker devices under Firefighter News Guys like Alexa, Google, Apple, and Anchor apps. I'd like to give a special shout out to our sponsor, Chief Miller. You can find him on Instagram at Chief_Miller_. Nadine, hats off to you. You're a wonderful person.
Thank you. We're all wonderful people. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.